everyone. Now this is a very exciting day for me because it was yesterday that we came to know the 2021 Women's Prize for Fiction. It is Susanne Clarke's Piranesi, and yeah, I hope you can see it. It's another e-copy again. So I just don't know what to make out of it. I'm still in the so-called labyrinthian palatial house. With lots and lots of halls, statues, skeletons, tides, kind of a flat, everything, so many mysteries, so many hauntings. Actually, it's so very a mysterious world in its own. But then this is a very wonderful book. See, I have not read such a wonderful book very recently. See. It's like, Piranesi is of course the character, of course the protagonist of the novel. We'll talk about that. But then Piranesi is, Susanne has actually created so wonderful world to be in. It's a world which most of us would love to be. Most of us would, I was so very immersed in that sort of a world because it's a world which most of the people are frightened to go. We'll talk about that. Frightened to go. See, we could take it as a world of the unconscious, as a world of the imaginary, as the semiotic realm, as Julia Kristeva would call it, imaginary as Lacan would call it, or unconscious as Freud and other psychologists would call it. So it's like you are in such a, and it is the world of literature, it is the world of creativity, it is the world of imagination, which is kind of a very amorphous, very amniotic fluid, sort of a womb-like space where you can go anywhere, you can go to any hall that you would like to, you can see anything, you are so free to do, you are not, kind of language does not hold you back, the symbolic order does not hold you back, see, nothing does. So Susanne has actually created a wonderful world, see. This is Susanne Clarke's second work. The first is Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell, which was published 16 years before, I guess. And this particular work was published after a long illness that she was in. And to talk about this particular work, I'm so excited to talk about this, in the sense this actually provides us with an alternate reality, probably, an alternate world, a magical world, a mysterious world. And which is narrated by Piranesi himself. And this man, Piranesi, once we open the novel, once we begin the novel, we see that it's a palatial house which is being described. A house, a palatial house means more than a palatial universe, like house. It's a universe in itself, in the sense that it is divided into three levels. You have the lower halls are the domain of tides, the waves, the sea world, where you have fishes, the crustaceans and the sea vegetation there. And you have the upper halls, which is the domain of clouds, from where the fresh water in the form of rain is produced. Between this we reside, where we reside in these, the middle hall is the domain of birds and men. Now you see that in this particular world you have tides, you have floods coming in, you have birds coming in with all their droppings, and you have lots and lots of statues, bones, skeletons, rooms, halls and whatnot. Lots and lots of things are being given. See, and you do not have, what I felt after reading this particular novel is that I felt that the world that Piranesi is in, he is actually, you have two characters in this particular novel, exactly two, but then you have other characters coming in. But then primarily you have two characters. One is Piranesi and the other one is the other. He is not named, and Piranesi is not focused on naming people. Piranesi is not focused on fixing meaning. Piranesi is all open. Piranesi is all inclusive in nature. Whereas the other is very manipulative kind of a fellow, a person who exerts power on Piranesi. The other is a kind of a symbol. Piranesi is another kind of a symbol, that is what I felt. This is just my take on the novel. So you might have different takes on the novel. So what I felt is the names of the halls are given like southwestern position. You have 119th hall kind of thing. That is the kind of descriptions that are being given, and the names. Piranesi itself is not the original name of Piranesi. We get to know the original name towards the end of the novel, which I would not, of course, tell you. So, because I just don't want to spoil your reading. So, Piranesi, as I told you, is not the original name, and he's not sure of his original name as well. He's almost 30 to 35 years old, and you have the other who's almost 55 plus years old. So it is he who, what happens is, these are the two living beings there in that particular world that is being described. I don't know whether it is a fantasy sort of a world. I felt like I was the Alice and I was in a wonderland. A wonderland which is so comfortable to be in. A wonderland, most of the people would not be comfortable with this wonderland. We'll talk about that. And these are the two beings, and then you have some birds as well. You have this albatross coming in, probably we'll talk about that as well. And then you have 13 dead skeleton-like figures whom actually Piranesi every day goes and visits, and he names all these things. Names in the sense, in order to get a sort of an understanding, because we name things. See, why do you name? Naming, language, etc. comes in the symbolic order, right? You name things only to get an understanding, you fix something, right? So he names it like this: biscuit box, concealed person, the people of alcove, etc., etc., etc. And he visits them every day, provides them with food, water lilies, etc. So, and we'll talk about these two characters, the other and Piranesi. The other is a person who is after a secret knowledge. He feels like there is something in there, something in these halls that we need to decipher. And he feels like once I decipher it, once I get the knowledge, I become powerful. Knowledge is powerful for the other. He feels like there is some sort of a secret hidden within this particular space, these halls, and he's actually, what I felt is he's actually appointing Piranesi. The other is a visitor actually. He won't be there every time. Piranesi is the only person who is there in this world every time. And what I felt is the other is a person who comes often on Tuesdays or Thursdays. He comes and he gives Piranesi some sort of duties, like you just go there and find out what is there, kind of things. And you're not supposed to talk to anybody. You should be completely immersed in this world alone, right? So that kind of a thing. So Piranesi is a person completely different. He is not bothered about anything. He celebrates that world. He's very much happy in that world, right? And the other is a person who visits his world often and who gives instructions and goes. Now, for Piranesi, and this other does not like this world altogether, right? He does not like this world, but then he wants to know about this world. So what I felt like is, after reading this particular novel, I was trying to read this particular novel in a very psychological manner, right? What happens is, the other could be a symbol of those kinds of people who are trying to decipher, who wants to remain in the conscious realm, who wants to remain in the symbolic realm, in the symbolic order, but then they want to know about the unconscious. Like you have Freud, like you have Lacan, like you have all these psychologists who are actually trying to decipher the unconscious. They want to know the imaginary order, but then they cannot be there. They don't want to go there. They want to reside. They don't want to reside there. It's like the other. The character, the other actually is a person, is a symbol of the symbolic order, conscious order, and then at times he comes to the unconscious order through Piranesi, through people like Piranesi, like you have Freud, you have Dora. So what happens is, he actually comes in, delves in, and gives some duties to Piranesi to search in the unconscious, and he finds something out. You have Freud doing it with Dora, the kinds of sessions that he does. And what happens is, it is through the people who are able to celebrate, who are able to enjoy, who are able to be in the imaginary order, that these conscious people, so-called conscious, the people in the conscious realm, they want to decipher things out of it. And they feel like, once I decipher things out of this unconscious order or this imaginary order, what happens is I get knowledge, right? I got knowledge about this unconscious order and I become so powerful. See, I can read your mind. I can read what is happening inside your mind. So what happens is the hidden, the world which is the palatial, the hall-like, the semiotic, the amniotic fluid sort of a world that I was residing yesterday. I mean, it's a labyrinthian universe of its own. You can go anywhere, but then you cannot get out of it. See, it's like Piranesi is always feeling like we should abandon the search for knowledge because knowledge is all here. I'm in this realm, I'm in this unconscious realm, I'm in this world of palaces, I'm in this world of statues, and everything is out right here. We need not find it, we need not make it our own. It's there. You need not search knowledge and find out and make it your own. Whereas the other feels like I get knowledge and I become powerful. So that is something which happens. So the other is a person who belongs to this conscious realm, and this how come they come to this palatial house? It is that they does some sort of a ritual of moving to the other world, and that is how they reach there. I just don't want to spoil all those things. That is why I'm not going into that. So what I felt about this novel, that is what I'm trying to describe. So I felt like see, you have 15 people in total, 13 dead and 2 living. Then you have the 16th person emerging, and 16th person, Piranesi calls it as number 16 or 16th person because he does not name anybody. Whereas you see that the other people, the 16th man or Raphael, who comes to this particular novel, Raphael acts as a sort of a bridge. I mean, that is what I felt. Raphael is acting as a sort of a bridge to Piranesi, so that he would be able to enter, move back from the unconscious level of his mind onto the conscious level. Sometimes we feel like at the end of the novel there is the presence of a Raphael and there is the presence of a counselor. Then we feel like probably it is that Piranesi, I won't mention his original name. I mean, Piranesi, probably he had some sort of an attack, mental attack, trauma or something like that, and he might have gone into another world altogether, and Raphael and the psychologist and the counselors, they're actually helping him to come out of a recover. Probably this is something which Susanne Clarke has written when she was ill. So probably that could be taken as something when you are ill, when mentally ill, traumatic, for example, you move on to another world altogether, and there should be somebody to help you to regain your health. But what I felt is that could be taken as some sort of a, that is kind of a, that is one thing that I felt. But then another thing that I felt is Raphael is acting as a person who actually moves a person from this unconscious onto the conscious, from the imaginary order to the symbolic order. So what happens is Raphael helps him to come back to the conscious level. But then we see that towards the end of the novel, we see that when somebody asks Piranesi, see, where were you? So all these years, all these days, where were you? And he says, I was like in a palatial house with so many statues and bones and skeletons and tide and flood, and I was very happy there. I was so very immersed there. And what happens is what I felt was that though we enter the conscious order as such, though we enter the symbolic order as such, we do have that imaginary, we do have that unconscious part of it lying within us, still with us. And probably this hall or the palatial hall, which the space that is being described in this particular novel, could symbolize the unconscious order as such, imaginary order as such, and the conscious space that again towards the second half of the novel, which is described there, you have the conscious level. In the real world you see lots and lots of things happening, violence happening, language itself comes to be. Are you this person? When you ask, are you this, that is sort of a creation or fixing of your identity, and you have disappearings happening, you have violence happening, you have tortures, you have what is it, lots and lots of things, scientific things happening, scientific things, research is happening, all these things are there. We see that Piranesi is able to enjoy the beauty of the labyrinthine household, and Piranesi is very much celebrating or happy in the unconscious realm. But then once he enters the conscious realm, he carries the unconscious with him. That is what I feel like. So, okay. So then what I felt like after reading the novel is that this particular world that is being described in the novel, all these are very personal reflections, okay? Just don't take it in a very academic way. These are just personal reflections. Yesterday I was reading it and the things that came to my mind, that is what I'm describing. So what I felt again is that this particular hall which is being described, the halls, and so many numbers, 110 numbers are there, so many halls are there. As I told you, you have clouds, 3 levels are there. So what happens is, what I felt is this space that Susanne Clarke was describing is a space of imagination, is a space of creativity, is a space of art, is a space of literature, poetry, which is a space where, most of the time when we are talking about women's literature, we feel like language does not contain what women want to express. So this particular hall-like, palatial hall-like place could be taken as a space where women could converse. Where it's a space of women. Though the person described as a man, I know, but then that space of imagination, which is very feminine, right? And you have this particular world of imagination, world of literature. Where it's labyrinth-like. You could enter anywhere, you could go into any place that you would like to see. That kind of and another thing is that the imaginative world, the literature world is filled with lots and lots of things, like, right? If there are so many things which are happening in the world of literature. So this particular world, the unconscious level, the semiotic order or the imaginary order, so to say, would be taken as a space of literature, a space of creativity, which is a very amorphous realm, right? So I just forgot talking about journaling. Now this particular novel is written in a journal format. At the very beginning itself, we understand that Piranesi is not able to remember. So memory plays a very important very important role in this particular novel. See, Piranesi is not able to remember. Piranesi does not know what his real name is. He just knows that the other calls him Piranesi. Why, he does not know. Where he is coming from, he does not know. But then he does have a heap of journals with him. So it's so great that he's not able to read it. But then when time comes, he reads it. And it is through this journaling that what I felt is, it is through this journaling that he's trying to keep track of his life. We all are trying to, stories are a way by which we try to keep track of the ways the pathways that we tread, right? So journaling is the best way by which Piranesi is trying to get a complete picture. We know that it's not a complete picture, in the sense that he was, while the 16th person, the person actually wrote a letter there, he just went and erased it. So what I felt was that the journaling itself is not something which you can do in a very clear-cut, concrete manner. It's not completely concrete, it's just after erasure you get something, right? It's not completely clear, but then it's somewhat clear. So memory acts as a very important element in this particular novel, and journaling itself is a process by which he is trying to regain, or he is trying to bring together the fragmented parts of herself and to create a real identity of his own, which would, once you gain identity, once you understand something through language, once you, journal is of course about language, so once you understand your real identity, you will have to move from the unconscious level onto the conscious level. So So what happens is, what I felt is that this particular novel could be taken as a novel which describes the world of literature, the world of creativity, the world of unconscious, which is very comfortable, which should be a very comfortable realm. But there are people like the other who are very terrified by this unconscious realm, right? Because they are running away from the flood, right? The other is running away from the flood. And what happens is, but then the other is, after experimentation, what happens is, it is the other who is so very immersed in the unconscious and he gets killed by it. So of course, unconscious for the people like other, once they get immersed in it, that could kill them on the one hand, but that could kill them. The unconscious would flood over them, and that would, so in that sense, for people like other, unconscious, it's a very dangerous place to be. But then what happens is, for Piranesi, for people like Piranesi, Piranesi says that I'm so very familiar with each and every bit of this hall, right? So he is a person who is able to understand the unconscious part of everything, the each and every bit of the unconscious. So for people like Piranesi, unconscious is a realm where they are, where they exist, where I don't say it is identity, I don't say it is a very a fluid sort of a world where they are, or where they be. Okay, so this is a particular novel. I just want to tell you that you just read it. You just, Susanne has actually created a labyrinthian world of unconscious, world of literature, a very wonderful world to be in. Thank you all.